Shields up, Iron Breakers. We're kind of here coming at you with another video, and today we're going to be talking about Anthem because they released part 2 of their gameplay series where they talk about multiple Anthem gameplay topics, and in this particular video the topic was Endgame, so I figured it'd be a good idea to take a look at that video, tell you guys what I thought about it, and then tell you my own personal take on Anthem's approach to Endgame. So let's get started. I thought that in that video, one of the things that we got to see that we didn't see as much of during the demos that we played were definitely some really cool cinematic moments. However, it also seems that a lot of those moments actually come from the first mission that you will do, which I will even call a tutorial mission, and that appears to be a heavily scripted mission. It doesn't change the fact that those cinematics look cool as hell, but still, I don't think that that is going to be the norm, and I hope that I'm proven wrong. I hope we get plenty more cinematics like the ones that we're getting in that particular mission, because that would be really cool. It would definitely be a lot more colorful than just like, hey, let's go to Fort Tarsus. And now it's like, hey, let's go out into the world, do this mission, come back, repeat. You know, I want to see some epic cinematics because that is something that we've seen in Bioware games. And I understand that this is not a single player game, this is a multiplayer game, it's its own thing, it's different, but at the same time, it doesn't mean that you can't do it. As a matter of fact, I hope that some of the contracts that you will do later in the game will also have some of these cinematic cutscenes, particularly to end the missions and stuff like that. And I hope that in those cutscenes, you will actually see your party interacting like you see on that cinematic that we saw at the very start of the video, where you see the Ranger helping up the Colossus after both of them taking a beating. I hope that we get stuff like that, with the exception that instead of seeing, you know, like pre-made javelins that they have for the purpose of the quest, it would be cool to actually see the javelins that you and your teammates have and your characters interacting in a certain way. And you guys are like, oh, that's too much, it can't be done. It's like, it's been done before in Lost Planet 2. I don't know how many of you guys played Lost Planet 2, but you had this exact thing happening in that game, and I don't think it's particularly hard. I think it's something that they could totally do for, I don't know if these contracts would be the thing, maybe the legendary contracts, maybe some of the missions that we'll have, maybe some of the story missions that we'll have. I just think that that would be really cool, and it would be something that would definitely contribute towards player immersion. But anyway, in the mission that we get to see at the very start of that video, your objective is to shut down a cataclysm called Heart of Rage. Now, the interesting thing here is they seem to no longer be referring to these phenomena that take place in the world as Shaper Storms. It seems that for now on, no, they're cataclysms. We haven't heard the word Shaper Storms for quite some time. I mean, besides the fact that I put it on my live stream for when they did the event on the last day of the open demo, but you know, we haven't actually heard the words Shaper Storms being uttered. It seems that from now on they're going to be cataclysms, or maybe Shaper Storms are their own thing and it will be revealed later, but for now I think it's safe to assume it will be Cataclysm. And from the content of the video, it seems that this Heart of Rage Cataclysm is going to be like the core experience of the main single-player campaign. And I say single-player in between quotes because it is my understanding that pretty much every mission in the main campaign, which they are referring to as the critical path, can be taken by multiple people. So other than, I think the tutorial most likely you'll have to do solo, but pretty much everything else you can play along with your friends. And all of those missions, from what I can tell in this video, are going to be about this Heart of Rage Cataclysm and you being able to successfully shut it down. Now, there were some minor spoilers that I will talk about because you guys know, whenever there's spoilers in a friggin' a trailer, it just bothers me to no end. Even though these are very minor, but I will save those to the end of the video so that you guys can continue to watch. And then if you want to dip out at the end, I'll be sure to alert you before I talk about that stuff. So in one of the gameplay sections, we actually see something that appears to be a down strider, and that I would assume is one of the new mission types or events, or maybe even a contract that we haven't really seen yet in the game. And I thought that was cool, you know, maybe repairing a strider, who knows what kind of rewards that kind of stuff would wield. Maybe a new entry point into the free play areas, kind of like what we had in the demo where we had 2 entry points to enter into free play. We had one which was the main gate of Tarsus, and then we had another one which was in a javelin off into the close to the east gate, I believe. So that would be a cool reward for you to actually engage on those events, or maybe it will be something completely different at this point. I'm basically speculating. We also got to see some of the Titans that we fought during the last day of the open demo as kind of like an event type deal. We even saw a Ranger basically finishing him off with a flyby ultimate, which is pretty damn sweet, with the Ranger being the only javelin that can actually do his ultimate while in flight mode. I'm talking about actual flight mode, do like a drive-by ultimate drop-off, which is pretty damn sweet. But then they also showed naturally a lot of javelin customization options, because that is one of the things that they're going to be trying to sell you once the actual game comes out. They want you to, you know, get a couple of additional cosmetics for your javelin, make it look real cool. It's an extension of yourself, all this other stuff. We'll have to see how easy it is going to be for you to actually unlock that customization with in-game currency. That is definitely one of the main things that I will want to be looking at the second I get into the game, start experiencing the story, all of that stuff. I want to take a very quick look at how hard that is to do, to see how fair it is, and that is definitely one of the things that I'll want to be reporting on. Another one of the things that they talked about was gear progression, and according to this video, it looks like you're going to be able to craft masterwork items, which at the time that I did my video talking about loot, you guys might remember I did a big video talking about loot and all the different rarities and the modifiers and all of this stuff. It was said by the developers that you would only be able to craft up until Epic. Looks like that has changed. You will actually be able to craft masterwork items, and I gotta tell you guys, this is a massive change in the positive. And why, you guys might ask? Because it is going to remove some of the RNG aspect of you getting loot. The fact that you can actually craft and chase after specific masterwork items is going to give you more control over the builds that you want to do for your javelins, and that to me is essential. You're no longer going to be as dependent on RNGs to get a decent set going. And I do say decent because you still can't craft legendary tier gear. At least I don't think you can, I'm not sure. Legendary tier is something that they haven't talked about that much, other than to tell you that this is the big ticket item, this is the thing that you're going to be chasing. But the fact that you can craft masterwork, trust me, that is very, very, very good news. But then, when it comes to Endgame, it looks like the activities that we're going to be doing are challenges, which come in daily, weekly, and monthly variety. And you know, these are the things that I'm probably the least excited for. Whenever you start throwing in the word dailies and weeklies and all this stuff, I'm like, oh, this is the thing that I'm gonna go in and do. And I just hope it's at least fun. Like, some games make it fun, some games just make it a grind. We'll see what variety we'll get when it comes to Anthem, but these are going to reward you with crafting materials, and I suspect that certain challenges will also reward you with blueprints. I would imagine that probably the monthly challenges are going to reward you with some decent blueprints that you can then go on and do. But these are going to be like one of your big time sinks in order to collect crafting materials and the like, at least from the moment that you hit endgame for the first time. I would imagine that these are going to be something that you want to keep up with for a while to gather a wide variety of materials that will then enable you to craft the different items that you want for your builds and stuff. Then the other activity is contracts, which actually are not like Destiny's bounties, which a lot of people thought that these were going to be like Destiny's bounties, myself included. It turns out that these are actually going to be missions that you will launch into, kind of like what we did for the Matthias little quest, which is like an optional quest or whatever in the main. Actually, no, it's not an optional quest, never mind. But kind of like the Matthias quest that we did during the demo, that's the type of activity that's going to be. You'll actually select it on the map and go to the place and do the thing. And it will end once you actually end the quest. It's not like you remain in free play or anything like that. No, contracts are going to be actual missions that you will take on. And naturally, there will be the legendary variety of contracts, which will be considerably harder, but they will also reward you with a lot better versions of items, potentially. I would expect us to actually get some of the blueprints from from here as well as potential good loot rewards. Like, this is something that the developers have talked about, that legendary contracts are kind of like a big deal. I think that these might actually be one of the main activities that people will be undertaking when it comes to endgame grind. Because we only have 3 strongholds, which we will talk about more, and these kind of provide you with more variety. And at the same time, the people that have actually gotten to experience these, because I've been following a lot of content creators that have gotten to experience legendary contracts, they've said that these actually give you good rewards and these are fun and all of that stuff, and there's a lot of variety because they will be spread throughout the entirety of the world, as opposed to being like in a very enclosed location, kind of like a stronghold. So these will allow you to, at the same time, do a legendary contract, get some loot, get some gear, and explore a wide variety of Anthem's world so that you experience all of the different locations in the game and all of that kind of stuff. And most likely they will also give you a little bit of lore here and there. So I think that contracts are going to be like the big repeatable content that a lot of people are going to be engaging in. Now, naturally, another one of the endgame activities that you can do is free play, which basically include you flying around the world. I would say that this would be one of the good ones for you to also collect materials, because you can just like take your time. Oh, I see a material node over there. Go there, collect the materials. And this is going to be where you will be doing your exploration in general. Like, say you find a spot, maybe during a mission or something, but you're like, oh, I'm doing a mission, but that place over there seemed interesting. This is where you will come if you want to go explore that on your own time. Maybe even discover some additional lore about the game that might be hidden in a cave underwater somewhere. Who knows? We've seen some of this stuff in the demo, but beyond all of these optional activities that you can take in free play, there are also the world events. We've also seen those in the demo. Those didn't seem particularly interesting, but that could be because there wasn't as much of a variety as it will be in the end game. So we'll see. But free play doesn't seem particularly appealing to me as kind of like an end game grind type of activity. Free play seems more like, oh, I just feel like flying around and just seeing the world and just like, you know, almost like a Zen-like experience, because that's the type of traversal that you get in this game. The whole mastery of the traversal itself is a mechanic into the game. And when a game has really satisfying traversal, like I could quote 2 other games that come to mind with really, really good traversal, one of them being Gravity Rush, both 1 and 2. I love the traversal mechanics of that. One of the few games that actually does flight well. And Spider-Man, traversing New York City in the latest Spider-Man game was also a joy. And traversing an Anthem feels really good as well, at least to me. I know that a lot of people have problems with flight and all that stuff. Not in my case. I love flying. I think it's a lot of fun. So that is one of the things that I will definitely be doing in free play, but not necessarily linked to the end game grind type of activities, you know? And finally, we come upon Strongholds, and I don't know why I said finally, because it's not the last topic that I have to talk about. But anyway, Strongholds, which are the equivalent of instance dungeons, and this is usually one of my favorite activities in most games of this genre, kind of like Destiny Strikes. This is the closest thing that you can equate to a Destiny Strike, and unfortunately there's only 3 of these. And a lot of players are actually concerned about the fact that there's only 3 strongholds, myself included. But in the greater levels of difficulty, strongholds are going to be a significant time investment. However, there's also something to be said about the fact that the stronghold that we've experienced is not even that complicated, so to speak. It's not even that big of a deal, I would even say. Because, I mean, what is the stronghold that you do in the Tyrant Mine? I mean, you collect echoes once, then you move a little bit, then you collect echoes again, then you move a little bit, and then you collect these different things that are not echoes, but they're also used to silence Shaper relics, and then you hold a point for a while, and then you kill a boss. I mean, I basically just summed up the entirety of Tyrant Mine. Now, naturally, the experience itself is much more fun than the activities that I mentioned here, because there's combat in between, and you're coordinating with people to take down turrets and take down the different enemies, like, you know, those Scar Hunters, which are annoying as hell, or the Sniper dudes that I don't even know their names. I think they're Scouts. Scar Scouts, Elite, Legendary Scar Scouts. God, hate those. But anyways, so it is a fun activity, but ultimately, like, the Tyrant Mine did not seem like a particularly complex, from a development standpoint, activity for players to do. So the fact that there's only 3 of them is concerning, but I'll talk more about that further into the video, so stay tuned. But anyways, the final activity is Cataclysms. And Cataclysms is kind of like the thing that we got to experience for a small portion of time during the open demo. You know, oh, the sky is red and there's meteors falling down and all of these bad things are happening in the world. And the end result is here's an ancient ash titan. Now that was just a small taste of what Cataclysms are going to be in the final version of the game. I think it was also just a way for them to test it out on live servers for the very first time, because essentially, for those of you that don't understand, this is something that needs to happen dynamically while you're in free play, and it didn't really work out that well during the demo because a lot of people would log into free play and it was not happening, so they had to log back out, log back in. But I think that their intention in the final product is that it's not going to be something that you load into free play and is happening. It's going to be something that you are in free play and suddenly the Cataclysm sky shows up. I think that's going to be a thing. And I think that, I mean, again, maybe I'm being a little bit too hopeful here, but I think that their objective is even maybe you're doing like a legendary contract or something. Maybe you're not even in free play, but you're doing a legendary contract and all of a sudden, Cataclysm sky, and you're just like, oh shit, there's a cataclysm going on. I got to figure out what's happening. And I do hope that that's how they do it. Like, I don't want to see a formal announcement for a cataclysm. I want to see the cataclysm happen in game, and then they can do a tweet about it. By the way, guys, in case you haven't noticed, this thing's happening, you know? Like, that'll be interesting. I would like it if the community themselves were the first ones to post stuff on social media indicating, guys, what's that? Like, that there's a cataclysm happening. Like, I don't want it to be officially announced. I don't want the developers themselves to tell you this thing is happening. I want it to happen. And then if, say, 2 days go by and nobody says a thing, then sure, then you guys can announce it. But like, I want it to happen, and I want the community themselves to be the one to identify that this thing is happening. But anyways, what are cataclysms other than something that just summons up an ancient ash titan? Well, in their words, cataclysms are going to cause massive changes to the world. You can expect to see physical manifestations, and the image that they shown during this was like a portal, the same portals that we usually see when the Scar or the Dominion are bringing in additional people. You can expect extreme weather. We saw like some volcanic type temperatures going on, which is probably going to make it harder for you to fly. You really need to figure out where the waterfalls are and all of that stuff, or maybe you just won't be able to fly as often when this shit is happening into the world, although that would suck. That would really suck, because flying is really fun, and what are we supposed to do, run in the ground? Like, that's never gonna happen again. Like, I already have a tendency whenever I play any other game now, I just tend to press X and click down on L3, and then I'm like, right, not playing Anthem, shit, can't fly. So, yeah, but anyways, physical manifestations, extreme weather, incursions of dangerous hostile enemies, and more. So, the Ancient Ash Titan would be one example of one enemy that might show up during one of these cataclysms, but I almost think that they're going to theme these things around, right? I think the very first big cataclysm that we experience might be about Ash Titans, but I figure that the next cataclysmic events that will come down the line will probably feature different monsters, maybe even different races. I do think that this can be very interesting, the cataclysms, and like they say, it is our most ambitious and challenging content in Anthem, and I just hope it really pans out. It seems that the main campaign of the game is going to prepare you for these events, which will then be implemented on like a seasonal basis, because these cataclysms are going to be timed. But it does make sense then that like the main campaign is all about you shutting down this Heart of Rage cataclysm thing that is happening to kind of prepare you for all the future events that they will be holding in the game. Now, they've also mentioned that they will be releasing new missions, new characters, and new stories in the weeks and months to come. Now, I find that very interesting, particularly weeks. On a weekly basis, you're going to be implementing new content on a weekly basis? And they also said that there's going to be guild functionality and new social hubs added into the game as these months go by. So apparently they have a lot of content in the pipeline that is not going to be a part of the final game. And I have a theory that I want to talk about this particular topic. I brushed up on this theory on one of my live streams recently, but I think that one of the reasons Bioware is holding off on certain content, like for instance Strongholds, is because they want to work with reactive development. Now, before I go into this, I realize that this is an extremely optimistic point of view, and I will almost inevitably be proven wrong. But in the off chance that my optimism is right, let's entertain this notion for a little bit, shall we? So what exactly do I mean by reactive development? Well, a lot of developers try to predict what players will do in their game and develop content around that. But unfortunately, they don't always hit the mark. You can definitely look at World of Warcraft as a perfect example of this. They keep trying to push their player base towards world quests and other casual activities, when a significant portion of that player base would rather push Mythic Plus, do PvP, or do raid content, to the point where a lot of the mechanics currently in World of Warcraft in both Mythic dungeons and raiding are actually severely underdeveloped. And it seems to me that what Bioware is trying to do is that instead of assuming that players are going to funnel into strongholds or legendary contracts, Bioware is looking to see what activities players are engaging in once the game actually launches, why they are engaging in those activities, and put their development efforts towards enhancing them with more content or create more content that complements these activities. Now, like I said, I'm probably wrong about this, but a man can dream. I mean, that would be one explanation as to why there's only 3 strongholds, because I can't imagine that strongholds are that hard to develop, particularly if you're talking about stuff like the Tyrant Mine, which again, like I said, is a fun activity, but does not seem particularly intensive from a development standpoint. So now I have that little rant that I want to talk about in regards to spoilers. So if you are in a media blackout for Anthem, and if you're trying to avoid any and all spoilers in regards to the story, this is your warning. Thank you very much for watching. See you on the next one, all that stuff. Hit the like button, etc., etc. Get the hell out of here, because I'm going to talk about the minor spoilers that they discussed in this particular video. So developers or publishers keep doing this thing in trailers where they reveal always a little bit more than I personally would like. So in this case, the specific thing that I'm talking about is that they say at the start of the video, when you begin the game, you're going to be a freshly recruited freelancer who takes part in a failed mission to shut down the Heart of Rage Cataclysm. And I'm just thinking to myself, so that mission is probably going to be the tutorial. Why did you have to tell me that that mission fails? Like, what exactly do players gain from knowing that that mission is going to be a failure? There really is no benefit for your player base at large to know this. And the simple fact that now the people that watch that video now know that that mission is going to fail, they're going to go into that mission and have virtually no investment into the success of the mission, because we already know it's going to fail. Even if we're doing gameplay and we're fighting against the big Ash Titans, it's not like I'm going to be like, yep, yeah, I'm going to fight my hardest to try and beat this mission. I'm not. I already know it's going to fail, so I'm going to be like, whatever. And that bothers me, because from an investment standpoint, it takes me a little bit out of the story. It reminds me, for instance, when I was super excited about Xenoblade Chronicles 2, and Nintendo just straight up reveals in a trailer that your character dies. And I'm just like, dude, like, how can you not understand that that is a pretty important moment in the story? You see your character getting stabbed through the chest and die. Like, that is going to evoke certain emotions on the players, the same way that in Anthem it was going to evoke certain emotions on the players to fail on their very first mission and to see that the enemy is overwhelming and all of this stuff. And now most players are not going to get that initial feeling that they would get during that first mission. And this is something that maybe it bothers me more than it should, but ultimately it's just something that I really wish people wouldn't do. It's like, you can show me a lot of stuff, show me the gameplay things, tell me what your plans are, tell me all of these things, but like, don't spoil the story. Even these little things, like, don't spoil them. It's dumb. Anyway, guys, what do you think about all this? What do you think about Anthem's Endgame? Let me know in the comment section below. Thank you very much for watching. If you guys enjoyed this video, make sure to hit it up with a like, and remember, you can always subscribe and hit the bell notification icon so that you're actually notified when I put up a new video. See you guys in the next one.